It's all about our mental strength. You know, everyone asks me, how were you able to box it so light? I don't know. I was hungry. My mind just told me to do it.
It's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and still keep moving forward. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Sports for Champions podcast. Today I am joined by retired boxing champion Hannah Beharry. How are you today, Hannah?
I'm all good, thank you.
Excellent. So happy to have you here today. It's actually our first time interviewing a boxer like yourself, so I'm really excited. If you could start, tell us about sort of your early forays into sport. Is it something that you tried at an early age?
No, ironically not. So I had 5 brothers and they all made me play loads and loads of sport from like the age of 3. And so I was epic at like playing football, netball, basketball, you name it. I was just that little young, so epic young child that was amazing at playing sport in school. Mm-hmm. And I excelled in every sport, like I said. So netball, we won the nationals, hockey, we won the nationals, and also in football. However, there was no sports clubs to really send me to. So essentially, I was this young kid with all this talent and nowhere to go. And at the age of 16, my brothers took me to a youth centre. I was playing loads of sport there, and the youth worker said, "Hey, why don't you try out boxing?" I thought, interesting. So
did you have any experience of boxing or like watched it or anything?
No. In all honesty, I think when I was playing football on that day, I'd hit a few boys to score the goal. Right. So he was like, "Listen, this isn't your sport. You need to go down and do something else." And I remember when he mentioned boxing to me, I looked at him, I was like, "That's for boys," and he convinced me, go for it. So I went to the boxing gym, and when I went there, I was inspired by what I saw. Like every guy there had a 6-pack and an 8-pack, and I was like, wow, this is mental. And then I just saw the boxing ring with the lads hitting each other, but it was all controlled, and there was music playing, and I was like, wow, I want to have a go at this. So I ran into the gym, spoke to the first person there, told me to go away because I was a female. Wow. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Spoke to the next person who told me to speak to the head coach. And when I spoke to the head coach, I said, hey, I'd love to take the sport up. How do I do this? And he said to me to go home and learn to cook and clean because I was a female.
Wow, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, so when he said that to me, I remember looking at him, and then I walked away and walked out towards the exit of the gym. And what inspired me, I saw a picture of Mike Tyson there and Muhammad Ali, and my brothers made me watch these guys box on TV, and just looked around the walls, saw all these amazing stars, and I thought, do you know what, I want my picture on that wall.
That's so cool. You wonder how many lost talents there've been who've been turned away at that stage and have just said, oh, well, fine, it's not for me then, if that's the attitude.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about you that made you kind of push forward with it and not accept that initial no?
I think it's having brothers, you know. They've always like roughed you up and tumbled you. And also like in school, I left school no GCSEs, so I didn't really have anything to really aspire to, and I loved playing sport. So when he said no to me, I wasn't used to, you know, someone saying no to me, and I couldn't really overcome that. So I thought, you know what, I'll have a go at this. I never thought I'd be where I am today. I just thought I was going to have a go at this. And when I found the coach that would train me in the park, he was the one that said to me, you know, have you thought about being British champion, European champion, etc.? And I said no. And what literally got me inspired to do this is he asked me, did I have a passport at the time? I said no. And he said, have you ever travelled the world? No. And he took the globe of the world, took me to a library, and he showed me where my mum and dad's country came from, like Trinidad and Guyana. He said, the moment you box for your country, you get a passport and travel the world for free. I was like, did you say the world for free? He said, yeah. I was in.
And obviously that has happened. If we could take it back a little bit, so you touched on it there, you found a coach to train you in the park.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that came about? Because I think for most people that's just crazy, basically.
Mad. Especially like 20 years ago. So like I spoke to my brothers and they looked, I think they called up like online and so forth, and they found this coach and they said, listen Hannah, we've got a guy for you. Yeah, and I was like, okay. And they go, he's going to train you in Hyde Park Corner 3 times a week. I was like, in the park? Like, boxing's an indoor sport. They're like, nope, you're going to the park. And because I was used to playing that side because of them, I thought, okay, fine. So I turned up, and he looked like that coach from, you know, Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi. Yeah. And like, I was this other kid that's from, you know, a rough background, and he's there being super disciplined and stuff. But the worst is, it was snowing.
Wow.
And I had to go off and do push-ups and run outside, and I was freezing. I was like, this is not the one. But every time I trained with him, I loved it. So it inspired me that no matter where I was game for it.
Yeah. He must have really seen something in you because he's out in the cold as well. There must have been. What do you think it was about you at an early age that kind of inspired him to do that too?
I think people always say this, that, you know, if you play sport, you can always transfer those skills. And so because I was so good at these other sports it was weird that when he saw me, I naturally took for it. Like I was so good at it within 4 sessions, and he looked at me and goes, you know, have you done it before? I said no, and he's like, you're just an athlete that just needed to be harnessed. And he was an Olympic coach in Iran, so he could see talent. I was very lucky again, and from that moment he was like, I'm going to stick with you and train you, because I believe if you're trained and shown how to play the game, you're going to be brilliant at this.
That's amazing. Do you remember the steepest learning curve when you were first getting into it?
Yeah, discipline.
Discipline in terms of training or
everything. Like you had to get up on time. I was like, what? Turn up on time. If you're not there, I can do loads and loads of push-ups just because my discipline was off the chart. I had no discipline. So every time I turned up late, 20 push-ups. Every time I spoke when I wasn't allowed to speak, 20 push-ups.
Right, I see.
So you learnt a lot of discipline.
So you can nail out a lot of push-ups even to this day. That's awesome, wow. And then in terms of the actual skill, did you just pick it up? Was it almost like the muscle memory just basically built up really fast, or what kind of thing?
It was the muscle memory, but also like you get to learn something new. So I loved, like even now I love learning. So everything he taught me, I was thinking, okay, what's next? How do I accomplish this? Like a game of chess. And so because I was always learning each session, I just loved it.
Yeah, I see.
So skills, I was really skillful, just because you wanted to learn what was next. How do I throw that shot? What comes next? What angle am I going to come off?
Yeah, I see. And then obviously having sort of completed your training in the park, you kind of went back to the same gym again, I believe.
Yep. So he said to me, like, let's take you back to the gym. I was like, no, I was scared. No, I'm alright. And then he took me to the gym, walked up the stairs, and he literally said to like the best kid in my weight category, or a couple kilos bigger than me, get in the ring and spar. I was like, what? I've never sparred anyone. He threw me in the ring, and everyone's staring at us, and like I outboxed him.
So this is against the best guy,
yeah,
because obviously there wouldn't be any girls there because they weren't allowing.
No girls, just boys. I thought this was normal, by the way, because I didn't know anything different. And he hit me hard. I was like, oof, so I didn't want to get hit again, so I just outboxed him. And at the end of that sparring session, the head coach said, see you on Monday, and that was my ticket in.
Wow, there you go. Do you sort of remember the sort of attitude towards you in the gym when you first came in? Because obviously they just rejected you without even paying any attention basically in the beginning, and then you've come back now and you beat their best guy. How was that?
They were like, at first it was like a love-hate relationship, so loved you, but I trained by myself.
Really?
No one would train with me. Made a few friends, but I was there in my corner with my coach that was shadow box teaching me. No one taught me how to skip, and I couldn't skip at first, and I was so determined. Me and my coach spent ages with that rope. In the bags, I was by myself, but slowly I started to integrate, and everyone wanted to be my friends. The coaches just didn't like me because I was a female, and I had to fight my way through my talent.
And then do you remember sort of your first fights from that gym? Did that become your gym that you fought out of, kind of thing?
So I was there for a couple of years, and then I moved off to Haringey, which was like a female pro boxing gym. A lady there that really aspired, you know, she was the advocate for female boxing. She took me under her wings and helped me to grow from there.
There you go. So you're probably about 18 at that point.
Yeah.
How was that in terms of the difference between going to a gym where I guess you would have felt a bit like an outsider towards being, I guess you'd have been almost like the protege at that point? It
was amazing. Like, it helped me to really push forward because of how much they believed in me. It made me feel like I could do this, where when you're in the gym where you're battling all the time, sometimes it can be a bit tiring. But there, I just grew.
I guess both could be quite inspiring. I guess having your back against the wall and everyone being against you, you almost get like a siege mentality.
Yeah.
But then also you get confidence, don't you, if people believe in you?
Yeah.
How do you feel like your skills improved when you moved towards people actually believing in you and trying to get behind you?
I think it improved so much more because then, you know, you believed in yourself, you knew the skills would come through, and then it was like having fun. Like every time I boxed, I was performing what I'd been taught. There was no pressure, like, you know, you're not right, it's all wrong. Actually, you're doing amazing, go and show off.
There you go. Had you developed your own sort of style by then?
Yeah.
Or is there someone that you looked up to and formed that maybe?
So I loved Prince Nassim. I loved Mike Tyson. Completely two different styles, but I was somehow able to adapt it to each fight.
Right,
so I'd come in there and fight you, or take a step back and box you. And that's what I loved about it. You can be different and just do whatever's on the day.
Yeah.
Against that fighter.
That's awesome. And then how did you progress into your first few fights out of that gym? How were they?
Yeah. Like, I won them, knocked out. Didn't mean to, but when you catch someone with a really good shot, they get hurt. So I knocked out a few fighters.
How does that feel?
At the time, you're like, yes, I've won. And then you're like, oh my God, is she okay? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't really enjoy knocking people out, but it happens, like I said, with a good shot. Yeah. So those fights went really well, and before I knew it, I was in the British Championships, won that, and then it just took off from there.
That's an amazing achievement. Do you remember the British Championship fight?
I remember the finals. It was sick.
Really? What was it like? Tell me.
I think the pressure was on. Like, everyone was like watching you. Are you going to be able to perform, etc. And the girl was like quite aggressive. But every time I went into a fight, it was never about my opponent. It was always about whether I'm going to perform and will I be me on the day. When I got in there, I don't remember the fight. I just remember round 1, off I went, and at the end, winning.
Yeah, I see.
And I was happy with the performance, not about the win. Did I perform?
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's the adrenaline? Right.
Yeah, it's the adrenaline. You're in a different mindset. You're there to perform, and the pressure's there. Like, you're literally just doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
Boom, off you go.
It's strange because you see a lot of boxers will go back to the corner and they don't know if they're up in the fight.
No idea.
And it can be the most one-handed fight, but the boxer has absolutely no idea. Do you think is that something that you've experienced as well?
Yeah, it's because you're constantly thinking, what's next? Have I done well? Boom, 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 boom. And no one's telling you if you're up or not. You have no idea. You don't even know about the shots. You're just trying to perform. You go back to your corner, they tell you up, you're like, really? Am I? Didn't know this. Like, I thought I was losing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so strange. And then, so you said heading into it, you don't pay much attention to your opponents.
No.
Would it be like, would you watch tapes of them, or would you hear about what kind of style they had?
Yeah, so like on certain fights, like with being an amateur boxer, it's different to professionals where you're having that one fight. If you're having that single fight, you'll find out who your opponent is, and then you'll box accordingly. However, if you're in the European Championships or World Championships or even in the Box Cup, you've got 3 or 7 fights. So different fighters. So you have to literally know who you're boxing. Okay, I'm going to bring this style, but they may change their style. So you need to be able to be adaptable at each round and each fighter.
Do you think you've got a good, I think they call it fight IQ?
Yeah.
What kind of things do you think make somebody good at that sort of thing?
You have to play chess, and you have to always, train your mind. Boxing isn't about beating each other up. It's about outsmarting the boxer and being smart at what you do. So every time you hit someone, what's next? What's next? How do I set them up to what's next? So you're always thinking about the next move.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how was the competition? How did it change over time? So obviously starting out, I guess, sparring with the guys in the gym towards obviously amateurs, and then moving into the pros. How was the difference?
So I was always an amateur boxer, but it was stepping up the levels in amateur boxing.
Yeah.
So when you're in like boxing British UK fighters, now they're brilliant. But at the time, you can kind of get away with some sort of slack. And once you won the British Championships, you're now number 1 there. Going now to the European level is a different step up. Going to the Worlds is a level up. Those fighters are completely different to the British. So when you were transitioning, I lost quite a few fights, trying to learn, find my way through it until you earned your place, you understood how the game worked in the European level, and then you won that, and then it was next. So you're always trying to learn how it works in each stage. What's
the differences, say, for example, from British to European?
I think now the British are at the world class. So if you're boxing a British girl, a GB girl, she's world class level. Yeah. Where before they probably wasn't a world champion. So essentially they would just have one phase, one way of boxing, coming forward, going back, whatever. Europeans, they're coming in a different angle. And Worlds, there's all those angles and that fitness coming at you. And you're like, I'm from London, there's no hills. How am I going to get as fit as this girl that's training out in Russia and Sweden, who's up and down those hills? I had to wake up call and learn that. Or boxing on a different climate. Out in Guadeloupe where it's super hot, or Cuba, it's mental. So you have to adapt and train to all these different scenarios.
How do you train yourself for that? Because I can't even imagine where you'd start.
So like when you're part of Team GB, they take you to different places to acclimatise, to be prepared for this. Even in the headquarters, you've got like this oxygen mask in there, like you're running up and down the hill. So you are trained for this, but you have to earn your spot to get to Team GB. England and GB are different.
I see. And in terms of there's obviously different approaches that you can take. We've all seen the films of people sort of just running the streets in the cold and punching the big slabs of meat. But obviously now with a lot more money and funding coming into boxing at the lower levels, you are seeing people taking a more scientific approach to it. What do you make of all that?
I think the scientific approach is the most sensible approach. For example, you need to look after your hands. People think, you don't wrap your hands, you go punch the slab of meat or whatever. You're breaking those knuckles. If you're looking to have a long career in boxing, you need to keep your equipment, which is your body, good, and especially your brain. right?
Yeah.
So the scientists need to tell you how to look after yourself, to recover. You're going to be able to perform so much better, and you'll last longer.
I mean, it's interesting that you say the brain. I know there's a lot of talk in boxing now. You're seeing a lot of the stars of the past are having a really bad time with CTE, that kind of thing. What's your thoughts on that?
Like I said, boxing's developed where science is now come into play. So you're now taught not to get hit so hard, or you're taught how to move out the way. Where back in the day, you look at those fights, they were like Ricky Hatton, he was taking some hard shots.
Yeah, it's hard to watch at times, isn't it?
Yeah, like you're not taught that anymore. You're taught how to box, get out the way. If you're going to catch them, you catch them and you hurt them, but you're not looking yourself to get demolished. You want to have a career here.
Yeah. No, you're seeing like Muhammad Ali's the most obvious example, isn't it? His style included like he'd take whole periods of fights, or he'd just take punishment trying to tire them out, and when you see what actually happened, it's so difficult to watch. But it does seem to be changing now a little bit, especially with the young kids.
Yeah, it's definitely changing in the amateur levels. Professional, it's a different ball game. Hopefully that would then develop and change. But some fighters that know how to box, they won't get that kind of damage, and they'll know when to retire.
Yeah, I see. I think getting out is the right time. How much do you think attitudes have changed in boxing? Obviously, when you first go into the gym and you get told to go and learn to cook and clean, that must have been just crazy to hear. I don't even know how I'd deal with that. But then obviously now you are seeing female fighters, they're getting higher pay packets, they're getting more attention, and they're getting more respect, basically. Is that something that you're seeing at all levels?
I think, yes. It always depends on the area and how open-minded people are. Are people open to what the change is happening? And I can't really name the areas, but some places they're thriving, they're looking to invest in female boxing, etc. Some people are still stuck in 1900s, and they need to change and develop. So it's still shifting. I reckon in 5 years' time there'll be a massive shift. Yeah,
there's probably 5 or 6 girls who are really pushing the sport now, and you are seeing things really change. How do you think it would be for a young girl entering a gym nowadays?
Oh, it's amazing for them. There's so many females now that want to box. Young girls, teenagers, and it's so nice to see. So I go into a lot of schools, I meet them, I'm like, wow, boxing's very much an open sport to anyone really. Back in the day, 20 years ago, all boys. So they're all open, and when they go into a gym, they'll be welcome. The funding's there, you can get sponsored. People are wanting female boxing, so it's massive at the moment.
It is really starting to change. You said that when you first your first training sessions up in Hyde Park, you were really talented to begin with. Obviously that's not the case for everyone, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't reach the higher levels. How do you see the roles of talent and hard work kind of playing off against each other?
I think talent can get you somewhere, but without the hard work you're not going to get there. And I think with hard work and you're willing to learn, you'll get there. Some people probably weren't made to be boxers, and that's okay. If you have that hard work, you might be able to go into a different sport that suits your body and your skill sets.
I think it's an incredible amount of training, and to be honest, it actually looks quite frightening to be going into the ring and to take punches in the face and to punch somebody else in the face. But I think one of the biggest things you hear boxers talk about is how it's not really fighting. It's like so much more than that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's not fighting. It's a game. Like, you're going in there to win. So you've been trained how to play and how to win, okay? So when you go in there, you're not thinking about getting hurt. You're thinking about performing, like I've said. So whatever you've been taught, it's time for you to put it into play. A game of chess. Who's going to outsmart who?
Yeah, I think maybe to somebody who doesn't know much about it, it can just look like a brawl at time, but they probably don't realise how much training's gone in, and it's only when you watch 2 actual amateurs fight and you realise that what the boxer's doing is something completely different.
When you watch the amateurs, or even when you have a go at it, the moment you have that first training session, you're like, oh, wow, there's so much more to what I thought this was. Everyone says this to me. I work as a personal trainer outside of this, and the amount of clients that come up to me and go, wow, this is shocking. It's completely different to what you'd think it is.
How often would you train when you were sort of in the thick of it?
So I was training 3 to 4 times a day.
Oh, wow, a day?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And what kind of training sessions? Is that strength and conditioning, or are you sparring? What would you tend to lean more towards?
So morning will be like a sprint session every morning 4 times a week. Then you have a strength and conditioning session. Then you have a skill session and sparring. So
you're doing all of it basically, all of it in the same day. How is the toll on your body? Because obviously it's a lot of stress and pressure to put yourself under.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. I think, let's say you go Monday to Thursday, you're in camp. Friday, Saturday, you're doing twice, 2 days. Sunday, you're broken. You need that recovery day to go again. But your body gets used to it, and you're young, so the recovery was okay. It's the fights, the recovery are difficult.
Oh, really? Why? How come?
Because after one fight, it feels like you've been run over. Imagine you've gone to a competition. The competition, you go and box, you have to make weight again, so you're losing that weight, and you go again, and you're doing that 5 times in that week.
It's intense. How did you find the weight cuts? Because I know it's one of the most challenging things in the sport, really, is the actual getting down to a fighting weight.
It's so difficult. There's different weight categories, like, British level and then international level. International level, that was very difficult. You had to do whatever it took to get you down to that weight and perform. I say that's the hardest thing in the sport.
How much do you think boxers are limiting themselves by cutting too much weight?
Quite a fair bit, but it's all about our mental strength. Everyone asks me, how are you able to box it so light? I don't know. I was hungry. My mind just told me to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think that the life of a professional athlete is tough compared to maybe some other professions?
Yeah, you're isolated, you're training all the time, and there's only one of you that's going to win, and you're by yourself. Other professions have got a support team. You go back to your families. We are not allowed those luxuries.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Obviously, you sacrifice so much. Is there anything in particular that stands out, sort of in your younger days when that you gave up that you wish maybe you'd had a bit more of?
Not wish so much, but I think you gave up your whole life, I guess, as being a young person, because you were just in camp and you're training and you were isolated to that lifestyle to be the best. So when you retired, you come back. Like, I came back to London at probably 27. I was then working, getting used to travelling so much. I think probably at 31 I finally settled.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is normality. But it was later on in your life, but most people settle a bit later.
In terms of nutrition, how would your diet be back then?
So strict.
Really?
Yeah, so strict. Like, literally a handful of porridge in the morning, you train, and then again, like lunch, you'll have protein that's cooked really well, like a steak piece or beef that's, ovened, some veg, really small limited amount of carbs. Evening time, same thing.
Right. Wow. What would be the one thing that you were really sort of craving during those times?
Anyone knows me, I love Nando's.
Nando's, right? Okay then.
Yeah, and it was like Nando's is right opposite our training centre, and I had to walk past it all the time and be like, I'm tired.
See, to me, Nando's is actually fairly healthy, but I guess there's levels to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of takeouts, I think of it as being one of the better ones. No, probably not. Who's your favourite sporting hero growing up?
Yes, it was Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Layla Ali. Those guys really inspired me. Like, just watching what they did for the sport inside and out, especially Muhammad Ali, phenomenal. And then obviously now Tyson Fury, he's sick.
What about Tyson?
He's brilliant. Like, coming out the ring for how many years, his own barriers he faced mentally, and he's open to share that in his books. And then coming back, and he's a world champion, and he is a world champion. Like, there's no messing around. He's boxed the best of the best, and he's open to box anyone. Definitely.
How would you make practice fun? Or was it ever fun? It doesn't sound that fun, to be honest. It sounds quite too intense for any fun.
I guess the strength and conditioning was really boring. Like, I hated that. Like, that was really boring for me. But like the sprints, it was so intense, so fast that you didn't really have time to be bored. It was snappy. And sparring, I loved. Like, I loved sparring. Put me in the ring and I get to spar all day. I'll take that.
It's almost like a puzzle, I imagine. I think that would be probably the fun element of it. I guess with a different person, it's a different puzzle every time.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard, but it's fun.
Awesome. And did you have a favourite sporting quote?
Yeah. So my quote is, success isn't given, it's earned.
Right. What does that mean to you?
Being successful wasn't given to me in the play. I had to work really, really hard, waking up at 5 a.m, going to bed very early at like 9 p.m, leaving my life to just focus on this one thing. That's earned.
Do you feel that being an athlete's made you a better person?
Yeah, 100%.
How so?
I think as a kid, I had no structure. I didn't understand how to fit in the professional world, etc. Coming out of the athlete world, completely different person. I understand structure, I understand professionalism, I understand how just to be a nice person.
Yeah, I think it's all really important stuff that you can only kind of find out really by pushing yourself out your comfort zone. Did you used to get nervous before your fights?
Yeah, Yeah. So like before the fights, I'd be scared of not performing. So you had to like get the room in a way that I liked it, like with the music going, the right coach there, same socks I'd always box in,
Oh, really?
shorts, everything had to be the same. Just because I didn't want to jinx it.
What kind of music would you be listening to?
I'd listen to like R&B, then like bashment or hip hop, just to really fire me through.
Yeah, it's funny because we talk to a lot of athletes, and it tends to be about a 50-50 split. I think some of them have to listen to music to really hype themselves up, and then the other 50% are probably trying to calm themselves down because they're already right up there.
Yeah.
So you'd be probably more in the get fired up camp.
Get fired up.
How else, have you got any sort of special mantras or routines to kind of calm your butterflies and get you into the zone?
Yeah, like my brother, he had to always be on the phone or see me and calm me down. My coach, you know, had our food together, get our music going. Always need to know the time I was going to box so I can get the socks on, the shorts on at the same time, pad work, boom, boom, boom. And if that went wrong, like I'd lose the fight just because I didn't warm up enough.
Really? So just like one little
tiny thing. I was like, how could it all go out? And you had to be adaptable because sometimes your fight would be close or whatever else. So, yeah.
Wow. So this all culminated sort of in European Championship success. Can you tell us a little bit about that rise, just to finish us off?
Yeah, that was phenomenal. European Championships. Going down there and I was under so much stress and, you know, it was like, can I do this? I was in the finals. I knew I could actually, to be honest. I was very confident. And when I won it, it was phenomenal because it put me into the map of now it's Worlds. Now I'm there. I'm ready to put my stamp in there. Ready to take on whoever's next, and then we were looking towards what's next after that.
That's amazing. Could you give us a little bit of advice for maybe a young person starting out in sport, or maybe somebody who wants to look at boxing, maybe a girl who thinks maybe it might not be for her?
Yeah, you know, go and try out every sport, you know, don't be scared, and don't listen to anyone if anyone says to you it's not for you, etc. Go and have fun, especially if you're young, okay? Because fun will develop into you enjoying it, performing, and who knows where it'll lead you. Look at me.
There you go. Well, I think that's excellent advice and a really nice note to finish on. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
No, you're more than welcome. And thank you to everyone joining at home. We'll see you next time for some more Sports for Champions fun. See ya. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, be sure to leave us a like and a subscribe and check out all our other videos for some more great interviews and content. Bye.